Hello and welcome to our epic generation. Episode 6 tonight. This series is to showcase the amazing, inspiring, and simply interesting things that our generations get involved in, but also how we can get involved as a community and support. Tonight, got a very special guest. He's the founder of Eat Up Australia, an amazing not-for-profit. So I'm going to get him on. His name's Lyndon, and we're going to have a bit of a chat about what he's doing. Hey, mate, how are you?
Hey, I'm very well. How are you?
Yeah, good, mate. Good.
That's
Mate,
good.
thanks for jumping on today. Really appreciate it. Just gave you a brief intro, but I might get you to just describe everything yourself. Just basically, what is Eat Up? How and why did you get into it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a really simple premise. So we provide free lunches to disadvantaged school children who would otherwise miss out. It started in Shepparton, which is my hometown in country Victoria, in 2013. They were like a really grassroots beginning. So it actually began off the back of a local newspaper story, just in the Shep News. And
Right.
this profile, these couple of schools close to where I lived where kids were missing out. And I just read it and wanted to help and started like just in my mum's kitchen back then. Pinched
Wow.
what I could from her cupboards, and with her help and some mates, we whipped up 100 sandwiches for both of the schools mentioned in the article. And that's how we got going.
Wow. So back when we met, I think it was 2017, I remember the stat it was really alarming. It was 1 in 8 Australian school kids went to school hungry without food. That was the stat back then? Is that still the case now?
Yeah, unfortunately, the statistics are relatively similar, if not a little bit more exacerbated with the conditions at the moment. And when I first heard that stat, that was in 2013 as well.
Wow.
And really, like, we started locally in Shepparton, and I had, like I said, no idea at all there were kids in Australia missing out on food.
Yeah.
And when I read the article, I assumed it was just isolated to these couple of schools in Shepparton. And then after that first drop, I wanted to find out a little bit more about the issue, or just learn about it, really. And that's when I became aware of the 1 in 8 kids arriving at school hungry stats. And that even more opened my eyes to, I guess, just realizing if we were going to have any sort of significant impact, we had to be able to scale and we had to be sustainable. And really, since that point, that's what we've worked about going about to achieve.
That's fantastic, man. So you started in 2013, and like, how did it look back then versus how you've managed to make it look now and where it is?
A lot different. So back then, it literally was just at home. Like, it wasn't even called Eat Up or any grand vision. It didn't begin with any sort of complex strategy. It was just a really impulsive thing, and the basic idea that if these kids didn't have a lunch, what if I was just to make them one myself? And that was the initial step. A friend of mine, or I guess a mentor locally, was the head of a local charitable foundation. I actually went to her first and sort of just said, look, I've read this article about these local schools. If I was to just make some sandwiches at home or some lunches, would the schools even be able to accept them? Would that be something that could help? And she actually connected me and came with me to meet with those principals and really ask them just that. And I really think if she hadn't have done that, and it was just kind of me cold calling or showing up at the school with some sandwiches, they may well have just said, thanks, but no thanks. And it may well have just stopped there. So that introduction was really key. And then I suppose to fast forward now, we work on the back of really generous donations of food, whether it's Goodman Fielder who donate Wonder White bread. We'll often get, whether it's fruit packs or muesli bars and all of these items. So we make cheese sandwiches, and the way we do it at such scale now, so we're helping over 500 schools at the moment across Victoria, New South Wales and Queensland, is by massive volunteer sandwich making sessions, which is how we first met, of course, and you've been a part of those, which we're very grateful for.
No, I appreciate it. It's been phenomenal. And the whole concept, so yeah, it's extremely unfortunate school kids should not be going hungry in Australia in this day and age, but there's also a piece about the roll-on effects of being hungry in school, isn't there?
Yeah, it is. It is in ways you can imagine. Like, is what is a cycle of disadvantage for a lot of these families, and our sort of feeling is that school education is so integral to that cycle. And if in a country as lucky as ours, with the resources as a country and as a government that's put into the education, to think that kids are missing out on that sort of great opportunity because they're not able to get provided a meal, it just seems like something that we more broadly as a collective or as a community can assist to make sure there aren't those gaps that kids unfortunately falling through. And perhaps if they are given the ability to always sort of be fed to make the most of what is an amazing education, and perhaps that cycle, which is a long-term big picture dream, but perhaps that cycle finishes with them. They can perform their best in the classroom, enjoy school, and go on to a career that they're really proud of, and support a family of their own in time.
That's phenomenal, man. So it's not just that, the poverty gap just right there. It's also the education gap. And then in the future, the wealth disparity and the social inequity gap, which is fantastic. It's amazing, man.
Yeah. We, as much as it's just us trying to connect those kids with the power of a great education, rather than missing out on that from simply being hungry and finding it tough to concentrate. And that's the feedback we get from those schools. We want to make sure that that's not the case. They're not missing out on something as simple as a cheese toast you can go and help with. That's
it. That's amazing, man. So the next question I have for you is where do you see it up going in the future?
Once I heard about that 1 in 8 kids nationally, it was our aspiration to be able to support right across Australia. So for now, we're helping schools on the East Coast through Victoria, New South Wales and Queensland. But ultimately, if we can support kids right across the country, there's an amazing organisation in South Australia and another in Tasmania who seem to be doing some great work locally there. So perhaps if we can spread and help lunches in WA and in the Northern Territory, we're not too far away. So we've got our eyes firmly fixed on helping in those areas where there is still a need.
Yeah, right. Excellent. So we'll see most of the states covered by hopefully end of this year or next year. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, perhaps the end of next year. Of course, the pandemic has interrupted some of those plans in terms of us generally sort of flying over there to help get them. So a little bit of a pause, but really optimistic by the end of next year. Let's hope things clear up between now and then. We can make supported in those areas as well.
That's awesome. All right, the next question, man, second last one is, how has coronavirus impacted EatUp's operation?
Pretty fundamentally. So you can imagine some of the key pillars of our model are built upon hands-on large group volunteering events, not sought after at the moment, of course, and also a daily distributed item to kids at school. So the nature of remote learning has impacted that as well. So from mid-March, of course, when the circumstances really took hold, we had to change our model. So kids were going to remote learning. We couldn't hold volunteering events. That sort of item in terms of a day-to-day distributed item wasn't going to work. So we took the opportunity to speak to as many teachers, parents and schools in general as we could to find out what the need would be or just really how we could help. And the feedback we got that it was suited towards grocery items, pantry staples, fresh fruit and veg, and food that would last over a longer period of time. So we very sort of quickly got to work in creating an emergency food box, which was filled with those items. So with fresh fruit, vegetables, bread, pasta, Wheat Bix, So Good, Carmen's muesli bars, up and goes. And then we were really lucky because we're still able to leverage the schools as distribution points. So even though kids aren't physically learning there, so like the incident happening in Victoria at the moment, the parents are able to come in once a fortnight to pick up the boxes, which are sort of filled with enough food, not for every meal over 2 weeks, but to provide some significant sort of respite and support and access those food. And we're as from the middle of next week, we will have delivered 10,000 boxes across that period across each of the states. So helping to make a significant difference. But of course, unfortunately, with the conditions in Victoria, we've got a lot more boxes to be able to fundraise for and get out yet. But that's what we're working as hard as we can at now. That's
awesome, man. Well, I guess the last question is, I hear a lot, how do we get involved as a community? So I guess the question is, how can the viewers and our community get involved with Eat Up Australia and the amazing cause that they're working towards?
Yeah, so generally that answer would be to come along to our hands-on volunteer sandwich making events. But at the moment, our efforts are focused towards these boxes, and encouragingly, there's still a quite accessible way for the public to get involved and help. And we certainly understand that it's a period of high pressure for a lot of people. So we don't want to put any pressure on for people to donate, but a $10 donation helps us get one of these emergency boxes to a family in need. And that goes purely towards the food cost of that box. So we actually, that $10 goes towards the fresh, it's all fresh, fruit, veg, pasta. And then we get the Wonder White donated, we get the sanitarium items donated, and we just deliver them all ourselves, and that's how it sort of works. So it's really accessible. We've set up a website, which is a link in our Instagram bio, but it's just emergency-boxes.raisley.com, and that's just a accessible way where people can just give $10, and it makes a big difference to families who need some support at the moment.
Excellent, man. That's amazing. I'll definitely link all the details in the description later. But is there anything else you wanted to add before we call it a show?
I just wanted to thank you so much, mate, for the opportunity to share, and for your always helping us at the sessions, and even recently, like, such what a good guy you are, mate. You dropped off the extra items your housemate had in the pantry after their move, which we've put in these boxes as well. So thanks for always looking to try and make a difference. And I saw my wife just joined watching, so shout out to her. She must be watching the room. We've only got 2 rooms in this house, so.
No, that's awesome, man. So there you have it, guys. Eat Up Australia. 1 in 8 school kids at least go hungry every day, and we'll probably see that extrapolate and increase, sadly, as we go ahead into a recession with after coronavirus. But we can get involved. The details are at eatup.com. There's emergency boxes, $10, and that's a whole box of produce for a family. So Lyndon, as always, it's always a pleasure to have a chat, man. I really appreciate your time.
You're welcome, mate. Thank you very much. Anytime.
Thank you. Until we get to do the volunteering sessions in person, we'll catch up soon.
Can't wait, mate. Looking forward to it.
Take care, man. See ya.
See ya. Bye.